Hello again from my front porch, and I've got my mom and dad here visiting. Hey, mom and dad.
Hello there.
Hi.
Golly, we're back again.
Yes, we are.
So,
Full glory.
yeah, mom and dad stayed overnight with me, and they got to experience my very first attempt at omelets, and I'm pleased to say they're both still alive too.
And oh, was it good? Bacon, eggs.
Very good.
and-
Bacon and toast.
Oh, and them eggs.
Yeah.
Oh, he put all kinds of junk in it.
Well, in Dad's, he got the peppers like me, and Mom didn't want any of those. But Dad said next time I should actually try putting some eggs in with my peppers. Maybe a bit too many peppers in it.
Yeah, we had a pepper omelet.
You had to pick a peck of pickled or omelet peppers or some peppers. So now we were talking about what talk about this, because last time when they were here we talked about how they met, and that of course was a very interesting story how they got together. But so this time last night we were talking about this, and I had said, since the last video that I did was the happy birthday to my dad, 77, yay, happy birthday, Dad. He's here. That in that video I said that he's a guy with a lot of character. He can be a character, but he also has a lot of character. Mom has a lot of character too, and so I thought we'd find ways to talk about how they built their character. But in the course of discussion last night, it seems that both of them wanted to talk about a whole different character. It seems they were thinking of stories about me. They want to tell stories about me when I was little, and some of you will probably find these amusing too. So I said, all right, we'll go ahead and do that. So Mom and Dad, go ahead and share your favorite Paul stories.
Well, he was quite a character when he was young. As you might remember from one of the previous shows here Paul had about telling when I was on the police force, and yeah, he was growing up, and boy, did he pull some boners. And I tell you, that was half my job, was taking care of my own kid, by golly. He was just, little snot was into one thing and then another, it seemed like. He'd run off from home, and the deputy sheriffs and like I'd come bringing him back. Everybody knew who Paul was when they saw him, but he did several different things like.
Now we should clarify, when he says I ran off from home, it wasn't like I was a runaway. It just meant that I was off where I wasn't supposed to be.
He was just off exploring. Neighbor boy one morning brought him home 7 o'clock in the morning. We lived a block from the Union Pacific Railroad track, runs through Carroll at that time. And he was sitting on the rail,
yep,
out there waiting for his train to come through, mind you, the little stinker. And he's
my train.
In his pajamas.
Yeah. And he just do like, he'd be out in the middle of the street with his little tricycle directing traffic. One night went up to about 4 blocks from our place to, I was wrong in doing this. My wife was working at the hospital, so supper time. Now, mind you, it's about 7:30, 8 o'clock. I said, go up to the Dairy Queen and get us a sandwich for supper. So I said, well, Paul, you be a good boy, and I'll come back. I'll be back. I went up to get the sandwich. I was in there to get the order in, just getting ready to get it. Here he comes in the door. And I said, Paul, what are you doing up here? Well, you just come up, see what I'm doing. I said, how'd you get here? Well, I just come up. And I said, how did you get across the highway? He said, he had my big black flashlight we use on the department, He had it, and he said, I just come across the 4-lane highway, mind you, out there. He said, I just come across, and I just wave the flashlight at him, and they just go, "Arr!" He said, I said, oh, man. He was about that tall, little snot. Just all kinds of stuff he'd do. But, and then, you want to tell him some stuff?
Well, he had this tractor
oh, yes.
And the
toy tractor.
Toy tractor and a thing behind it.
What?
The wagon.
What?
He had the trailer behind it.
Yeah.
No.
Or whatever that was.
No.
Well, but the toy tractor, I used the toy tractor to do a little remodeling in our house.
Took all the wax off the kitchen floor.
Well,
what was the concoction that I made?
He used a box of spick and span and everything you could find underneath the sink, Comet and everything.
Yep.
He mixed it all together on had an linoleum floor. Now, the floor was kind of getting a yellow cast to it because it had wax buildup on it, you know. Well, he got this and mixed up a concoction, everything he could find under the sink, and he just went back and forth in this mixture he had on this linoleum. I'll tell you, when we cleaned it up, it looked like brand new colors we hadn't seen for years.
See, it was a good thing. I did a good service.
But he had this yellow tea kettle, and he put stuff in there and melted this thing that had sugar and whatever else it was.
Those plastic condiment holder things.
Salt and pepper shaker.
Put it in there and it melted it.
Oh yeah, he must have tried to make him something on the stove, and it wasn't coming out good enough. So he just threw the whole container and melted her down in the boiled her in the water till he melted it. And,
If a little is good, more must be better.
Across to Pauline's.
Oh, yeah. One day, Dorothy was supposed to be watching him at home, and
I was.
And the waitress from the restaurant come bringing him in and said, "Now let's see, this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blocks down across Highway 71 to a restaurant. They call it Pauline's Restaurant." This little snot guy on his little tricycle, and he went down the street, and now it slopes downhill to cross over to 71 and then over to the front, up to the front door of the restaurant. He went down that hill and right across Highway 71, right up to the front door, gets off, goes in, climbs up on the stool, and starts to order and stuff. And they knew him and said, "You know where you're at?" And so they come bringing him home. He said he went down this hill, and boy, he said when he took his feet off the pedals, that little tricycle, he said, "Man," boy, he said, "it just went zip down that hill and right across that busy highway." Oh, I tell you, I don't know. He had a guardian angel watching him, I'll tell you.
Yes, he did.
And then he fussed with him at the paper office. We have a daily paper in Carroll there. And he wanted to carry paper. He wanted to be a paper boy. Well, he was 9 years old, but he was small. And
I'm still small.
Yeah. Well, he was a little short.
Well.
But he wanted to be a big boy and have paper out. And they said, "Well, you ain't old enough." "Oh, I want." He just kept pestering him down at the paper office. So finally, they called and said, "Your boy wants to be a paper boy." And well, you think, well, okay, he wants to be one. I'll let him try it. So they let him try it. We had to shorten up the strap on his shoulder because the bottom of the bag drug on the ground when he walked. You know. But he had that paper out for several years. By golly, he carried that. But you know how he was a good-natured, good boy, and he just cared about people, helping people, and some of them wouldn't pay their bill. At that time, you had to collect door to door, you know, for the paper. And the paper office fellows got a hold of me and they said, "Hey, your boy, you know, I know he's got some people that he ain't collecting from." Said, "But see, they take their money out of his paper money every month, so he was paying for the papers he was leaving these people." And, well, asking by a guy, well, it was behind, and he just hated to collect from them, and he just let it go. Like, he just kept paying for their paper out of his money. But that's just the way he always was, helping people, you know. He was just a good-hearted boy like that.
Yes, he was.
Now, I like the way they talk about me past tense, like I'm dead now. Yes, he was. But, you know, I will say this. The flip side is the Jerry Nichols, who was the newspaper circulation manager that hired little 9-year-old me. My mom signed the contract and everything so I could do that. He took a big chance in having a little, his dad says, snot-nosed kid come in and do those deliveries. And while there were these stories of how I was so good, apparently I had other times where I gave Jerry a little bit of stress because when Jerry was retiring, he made the comment that, you know, I was a go-getter. I was really active. I was quite a kid, but I was probably also personally responsible for at least 4 of his ulcers. So, so there apparently was a little bit of a balance to just how wonderful I was as a newspaper carrier.
Boy, I remember sometimes in the wintertime when the snow, we used to have a lot of snow back years. He was doing, I think he had 40 papers on his route.
We had to help him.
deliver. And there was a lot of times we'd help him deliver in the police car at night.
Now that's service.
Yeah, we'd put his paper bag in the back seat, and my partner and I, and we'd drive him around so he could deliver his papers of me and stuff, because he was so little. And my partner said, "Oh, he's so little, he can't drag that bag around the snow. We'll just help him out. We ain't doing anything else pressing. We get a call, well, we'll take care of that, but we'll help him out."
That's a whole different definition of to serve and protect. See?
Yep.
So-
Things were a lot different back then. I'll tell
Yes,
you.
they were.
You could get by with things like that. Today you wouldn't.
Nope.
Police car.
yeah, no, probably not.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, any one other little wonderful gems you'd like to share today?
Oh,
You don't
let's
have to.
see. Well, I'll say that. Let Mom talk a little bit about it. Oh, well, I tell you, in school. Now, Paul was an exceptionally good boy in school. The teacher said he was, and yet to this day, I have a principal for his junior high that still comes up to me, sees me once in a while in town, and of course he's retired too. But he'll come and, "Hey, how's Paul? What's Paul doing? How's he doing?" Everybody, all the teachers remembered Paul. Paul was a good boy. I tell you.
I'm glad that's why they remember Paul.
Well, except for one thing.
Uh-oh.
One thing. We was called in once to the school, and the teacher said, this is down in probably 7th grade, 8th grade, 7th grade, I think it was. And the teacher said that Paul was doing good. He's a good student, but we have a problem with Paul. And he said, I just don't know just how to handle it. No, what's that? Well, he won't shut up. He says he won't give the other kids a chance to answer the questions or anything. He said we asked, but he says I just don't know what to do, because he said if I shut him up, I'm afraid I'll kill his spirit and could ruin a good boy there, And so, well, he thought a bit. I guess we'll just have to live with Paul.
I think a lot of people have that same attitude. I guess I'll just have to live with Paul.
Except your sister. She's
Yeah, my sister Tony, the other part of all of these stories apparently have a flip side. The flip side is my sister Tony, who was the next to follow me in line. She hated the fact that all those teachers remembered me. She still talks about how she would, first day of school, she'd be in a new teacher's classroom and they'd be reading the roll call, listing the names. They'd say, Tony Smith. And she'd say, here. And then they'd go, Smith? Are you in relation to Paul Smith? And she'd go, oh, here we go again.
Yeah, Tony wasn't so good in school.
That's a whole different story.
She was a character.
yes, she was.
She took more after him.
She probably did. We was also reminiscing last night about how Christmas was back when we grew up, Mom and I, and how it changed, things. I remember my folks was so poor. We grew up on a farm, and I remember my dad going out and chopping a little old plum bush tree down. Mind you, no leaves on it this winter, and bring it in. Then we strung popcorn on the strings and hung them bulbs on it. And of course, didn't have no tree lights put on it or anything, but that was our Christmas tree, because we couldn't afford to buy an evergreen tree to have. And it was just Mom would bake. She'd take a half a goose and a half a big chicken and cook them together. Or sometimes she'd get a duck and use a duck and a goose. She said that worked good. The grease from the goose would go into the other half of the thing, and it made it really good, She was a little old German cook and really good. But
her name was Hilda, so yeah, very German. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, like for Christmas, I can remember one year that I wanted a train set so bad. Went in town, we'd see them, and I'd just drool over them train sets. Well, we heard a commotion outside the door of the house, and Dad went with me. Well, Dad and I went to the back door to see who it was. Opened the door, and here was a red one of them Mark cabooses that come with the old trains that you wind it up, the steel ones. I still got that little red caboose, by the way, but that was there with a note attached to it and said, I know you wanted a train set, but this is all I could get this year for you. Next year we'll bring you the rest of it. Signed Santa Claus.
Santa Claus is on the increment installment plan.
And another thing was how they talk about now we get about 2 inches, 3 inches of snow on the ground, and oh, it's so bad. Oh, we can't get around, can't do nothing. My folks lived 7 miles from town. And I can remember many times that the snow was so deep and so heavy that my dad would hook a team of horses, and I maybe called them Betty and Molly, was the 2 bay team he had. He hooked them up to the old bobsled, and we'd take off just across country. Now, mind you, these big horses, heavy as they are, full-size horses, would walk right over the snow drifts, and we'd go right over fences, just right out across the farms, catty-corner towards town. Today, we don't get anything like that, snowstorms, but that's what we were used to. And you waited around them. You didn't get the roads open for maybe a month sometimes. And one year, I remember one year very well, that they couldn't get the road grader, couldn't come down through the drifts that was in the road, and they had to open it with caterpillars with blades on, push the snow out first with the caterpillars, and then went down through it. And sometimes when they did dig out of the snow to go to town to get groceries, why, the neighbors would get together down this mile. Of course, then we'd have like 5 houses or 6 down a mile. Now you go for 5 or 6 miles to see one house anymore in the country. But anyway, they would get together with their scoop shovels, and they'd go along and up about, I'd say probably about 4 foot, 3.5, 4 foot high. They'd have a ledge along there they'd walk on the snow, and the fellows down below would scoop it up on that ledge that them guys made, and then they'd throw it on up higher up, and they'd open a channel down through the road for a ways, and then as everybody get in their cars and make a run for town, load up on groceries and get back to what drifted shut.
Let's go! Let's go!
Everybody, I know Mom have me all ready. We'd be bundled up. Everybody be on the ready. Okay, jump in the car and let's go. Let's go to town. That's the way we lived. And we didn't run down to the local, supermarket. If you needed a can of beans while you run down and get it, you needed a loaf of bread or something like that.
You went for the whole supplies.
You stocked up for a week or so because you just didn't know when you was going to get back out to get something.
Now, just to illustrate for you, my dad is saying, we used to get snow like that. I'm gonna show you real quick how much snow we currently have right now. This is December 29th in Iowa. December 29th. Here, come here a minute. Let me show you outside the front door of my front porch, and you can get a chance to see just how much snow we have right now in Iowa. Look at all that snow. Wow. So yeah, right now we're not getting near as much snow as we used to get in Iowa. Certainly not to the level that Mom and Dad are talking about here right now. So any other stories you'd like to share?
Well, I remember the snow was so deep I had to go on a motorcycle to get to the hospital to work.
Oh, a snowmobile.
Snowmobile.
Oh, well, that'd be fun.
When she was working at the hospital.
It would come clear up by the porch and just level.
That's what my mom did for her entire career.
41 years.
Yeah. Well, since longer than that, because before I was born, she was working at the nursing home. So yeah. So that's if you wanted somebody, if you had someone in a nursing home and you wanted just the right-hearted person to take care of your elderly loved one in the nursing home, this was the lady that you wanted to know was on staff to take care of your loved one.
Let's see, she retired in March 31st of 2010, wasn't it? And we'd be uptown, and there's still people walks up to her and says, you took care of my mother or my dad at the nursing home, didn't you? Are you still working there? No, she says, oh, you were so good. You were so good to my mother or dad. I mean, that's something to make a guy feel proud of.
Yeah. Right. All right. Well, we probably have taken up plenty of your time right now. There are a lot more stories, and I'd love to let them share more. I want to hear more, especially some of these older stories about their lives growing up and stuff. But again, we'll get to more of those later. And we still are going to hear more about their lives not growing up, but their lives together, when they first got married, because coming up this February, 50 years. So, we'll talk more about that stuff too.
25th.
20, oh, I thought it was the 12th.
12th is my birthday.
March 12th. March 12th.
Oh, yeah.
You'd think after all this time he would figure these out. You'd think.
I'm not anxious for that.
Which one? The anniversary or the birthday?
Birthday.
All right.
And I'll tell you then what the secret is to lasting 50-year marriage.
Oh,
There's
big secret. Here we go.
And I'll let you know what it is. I guess in the meantime.
Oh, he's not going to tell us now. That's a teaser.
That's next time. Until then, we probably won't see you till after New Year's. So, hey, you all have one hell of a good New Year.
Have a great one.
Happy New Year.
Happy
Oh, no, I
New
covered
Year.
my mom's face. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And we'll see you next time from My Front Porch.